Because intellectual analysis does not actually enable one to see the nature of the impermanence of the body. Breath is the element air, which is one of the 4 elements constituting the body, and is, moreover, the most significant of all the 4. Why? Because if the element air happens to be in disorder, the remaining 3 elements, earth, water, and fire, also come to be in disorder or may even be dissolved. It is most appropriate and wise to contemplate the body in its breathing aspect because breathing is the most significant aspect of the body and is also the one that can be contemplated most conveniently. To contemplate each breathing in and breathing out amounts to contemplating the body directly and closely, and through it, contemplation of breathing, the meditator can gradually penetrate the impermanence, etc. of the body and eventually give up clinging to it, as explained earlier, stage 5. This is all about the way or method which brings one face to face with the thing that one is contemplating, and eventually one can really contemplate it and can truly see it. It should be evident that this method is totally, absolutely different from rationalizing about cause and effect, because mere thinking is too far away from the actual realization of the nature of the body. Even in the case of contemplating those aggregates, khanda, which are mental, as against the physical one, the form or body, such as feeling, etchi same principles are applied. That is, the meditator must first of all make the feeling become actually manifest before the mental eye, especially by developing concentration until there arises the feeling of rapture, or happiness, piti, sukha. Having given rise to feeling, he should then, in the way mentioned above, watch it closely and contemplate its characteristics of impermanence together with the different causes and conditions which account for the state of impermanence.
All this is to show the important fact that in order to contemplate any particular thing one must first make that thing manifest and then watch it with concentrated mind. In this way one will clearly see different characteristics and facts concerning that thing. It serves no practical purpose just to have in mind the name of the thing concerned and ponder it in the light of one's book learning supported by one's power of imagination and thinking. It must be like that. No matter how much one is gifted with the power of imagination and uses this gift to know the truth, one will just not be able to realize it face to face as can be done through developing insight meditation as referred to here. We can penetrate the 5 aggregates through contemplating the breathing in the manner mentioned earlier. We can penetrate feeling by contemplating rapture and happiness arising at the time of practicing concentration, or even other kinds of feeling which we are actually experiencing. We can penetrate sa unspecified currency A through contemplating our own perceptions in general, noting how they change. To see in detail, we watch perception arising after feeling, Vedana, noting how perception arises, how it changes, how it ceases, etc. To penetrate mental formations, Sakra, involves the same method as in the case of perception. That is, to see them clearly, we should watch the state of mind, see how it is influenced by thought, no matter of what kind, and should note why and how a certain type of thought has arisen, how it changes and finally how it comes to an end or ceases to be.
In order to penetrate the Vinakanda, we focus on the act of being clearly conscious of a sense object which has contacted its corresponding sense organ, noting why and how consciousness arises, in which way it is manifest and how it ceases to be. However, all this is difficult to do because consciousness arises and ceases too fast. It is better and more convenient to turn to the contemplation of the mind itself, that is, we should closely watch the mind performing different functions. The mind functions sometimes to know objects, sometimes to know feeling, and sometimes to think about various things. The mind is so conditioned that sometimes passion may, or under other conditions, may not arise. Sometimes the mind gives rise to ill will, delusion, etc. Keeping the above in mind, we must watch closely the states and activities of the mind under all circumstances and at all times. After having observed in this manner, it is possible to conceive of the 5th aggregate, consciousness. All other things such as the 6 external sense bases or objects are included in the 5 aggregates and have to be seen when actually serving as objects of contact. 2. The 6 internal sense bases. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, which perform the function of knowing external objects, follow the same pattern as the 5 aggregates. Each sense base performs its function to know its corresponding external object. For example, when the eye sees a visual object and is conscious of it, we notice that prior to seeing the object,
it was as if the eye were non-existent, it was meaningless. But as soon as a visual object comes into contact with the eye becomes meaningful. This is what is meant by the eye coming into being. When the eye has fulfilled its function of seeing, it is again as if it did not exist, until another form appears for the eye to see. In this way we see the birth of the eye concept, its continuation, and its final passing away. The same principle applies to the ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. We therefore conclude that we can see the impermanence of each of the sense bases only by observing it as it functions. 3. Dependent origination. The same applies in the case of the different modes of dependent origination involving material and mental factors. We can see each mode clearly as impermanent when we closely watch each of the modes while it performs its function. All this is called the complete working out of the various interdependent modes of dependent origination. Each factor, arising from ignorance, gives rise to a following factor, which gives rise to another factor, etc. On the whole, we must contemplate closely the impermanence of each of the modes while it is actually performing its function and undergoing successive conditioning.
That is, we can penetrate ignorance, which gives rise to thought formations because of our delusion. We also can penetrate thought formations as they really are at the time they condition consciousness, in their capacity of something dynamic, always endowed with creative power. And we can penetrate consciousness as it is, only when it conditions the functioning of bodily and mental processes. Consciousness gives rise to certain bodily and mental processes appropriate to its nature. By the power of the element of consciousness, Vinadatu, the functioning of bodily and mental processes is carried out. If there is the element of consciousness alone, it cannot create anything. But when it comes into contact with body and mind, it manifests its power. In the same way, the mental and bodily processes do not, if they are dissociated from consciousness, come into existence, because one has no bodily or mental feeling without consciousness. Further, we can really know body and mind only when they are manifest in feelings through the sense bases of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Mind and body make these sense bases the basis of feeling even with regard